This is a 2023 Genesis GV60. It's new to the US for the 2023 model year and the first fully dedicated battery electric vehicle from Hyundai's premium brand. But it's certainly not its last, as Genesis intends to have a fully electric lineup by the 2030 model year. Now, this is not the first electric Genesis. We do also have the electric G80, and an electric version of the GV70 is expected to arrive soon. But those are electric versions of cars that also include internal combustion engines. This is the first dedicated BEV platform. In fact, it's the exact same platform as the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and Kia EV6, the eGMP platform. And in some dimensions at least, it's very, very close to the Kia EV6. Wheelbase is a good example, but it's definitely not the same powertrain, as all GV60s are all-wheel drive and come with at least 314 horsepower. This car specifically is a GV60 Performance, which is the top trim above the advanced model and comes with 429 horsepower. It's also painted in uni white, which is a $575 optional color. By the way, Genesis offers 10 colors for the GV60, and 2 of the 10 are free. The rest are optional extras. The 2 no-cost paints are Alta White, not this white, and Sao Paulo Lime, which is like a neon green kind of a color. My name is Robin Warner, by the way, an experienced engineer and magazine editor, and I don't run on electricity or gasoline. I run on iced tea. I review all kinds of cars, from a $25,000 Ford Maverick to a $425,000 Rolls-Royce Cullinan. I'll happily jump into Honda Accords, BMW M3s, and Porsche 911 GT3s. And I have fun every time. Please subscribe and join me. The base price for a Genesis GV60 Advanced is $60,415. Opting for the performance trim adds $9,000 to the price, starting at $69,415, and my test car had that optional paint and cost $69,990. All right, with that, I think now is a good time to pull over and show you around and inside this car in a bit more detail. We've already seen the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Kia EV6, but now Genesis, the Korean premium brand, has its own version of this eGMP platform, the GV60. We should take a closer look. You can see the Genesis design cues in the GV60, to be sure. The split headlights here with the body color in between, right here. This grille shape that we have, it's quite big and quite low in the GV60, but the shape is there. I do like this just kind of like flowing lines. It's all kind of connected to this broad and low grille down here, and this polished metal kind of look here at the base is a real nice touch. But what's under this hood is not only an electric motor, but a touch of storage. Under this little piece of plastic right here is 0.7 cubic feet of storage. You even have your nice little cargo net to help hold things in place, and a little bit of partition. It's not much, but it is more than nothing as well. Looking at the car in profile, you get a much better sense that this is actually not a very big vehicle at all, but the wheelbase is quite large. This is a 114.2 inch wheelbase with extremely short overhangs in the front and the rear, so that the overall vehicle length is under 180 inches. I'll go ahead and put the dimensions on the screen so you can check that out, and let you know that I have a lot more information in the description. Now, in profile, I think this is a really good looking vehicle. I do really like the contrast of white and black. You have the black here for the A-pillar, black window trim at the bottom, but then you have this kind of chrome window trim here at the top, this kind of like Z pattern that continues all the way back to this lovely black spoiler right here for all that needed downforce. You also have these black roof rails that conceals this really big piece of glass for the roof itself. And then you also have this black accent trim right here with this polished metal look below that. So you've got these really stark contrasts that kind of go up and down with the body. And of course, it doesn't hurt that we have this nice white paint to go with it. 21-inch wheels for the GV60 performance, and these nice touring tires with them, these Michelin Primacy touring tires. The advanced Genesis GV60 rolls on 20, but does get the same tire. It's a big wheel. It's a complicated wheel, but it is also a good looking wheel. Here is a different look at that rear spoiler that we have. It does truly stick out several inches from the back of the glass. This is not subtle, this spoiler right here, has to be said. Similar to the front end, you do have this bifurcated taillight setup right here, and I think that part works well. Though generally speaking, I do not like the styling of the rear end as much as I like it in front. It's a bit big and blunt, kind of this like brick wall shape right here. It just chops off vertically. You know, this fast back kind of shape to the rear windshield. Kind of wish it just flowed a little bit more, but again, I guess that's a consequence of being under 180 inches long. It does fit the same contrasting colors with this like polished metal look, the black and the white, and I think that part looks cool. And I do also like the amount of space it offers inside. There are a lot of ways to open this tailgate, and it is a powered tailgate, of course, but I'm just going to go ahead and press the button under here. And that reveals 24 cubic feet of storage behind the second row, as well as this lovely little cargo net right here. You also have 12-volt power right there, and also a little bit of extra storage underneath the floor. And of course, if 24 cubic feet is not enough, it's easy to add more. And with the second row seats folded, you have 55 cubic feet of storage and a pretty wide floor to use as well, it must be said. And I think that will pretty darn easily fit my road bike in back, but let's check. Oh yeah, no problems at all. The height is a little shallow, so you have to get the angle a little bit right. You have to be careful there, but otherwise, yeah, swallows my bike with ease. All right, let's check out that second row. Got these nice door handles that pop out when the car is unlocked and then squeeze back into the door seam when it's locked. As you can see, we do have a pretty decent amount of space back here. We also have this lovely like line that accents this otherwise pretty dark interior. And when you look at the door out here, you can see we have heated seats, a nice little cup holder built in the door, and check it out, a window shade for the door as well. I am 5'11" or 181 centimeters tall, and I am reasonably comfortable back here. I do have plenty of knee room, say about 4 inches back here, but the seat bottoms are pretty low, so I do not have much of thigh support. And as you can see, I have more than a 90-degree bend in my knees as well. On the plus side, in addition to the features I showed you on the door over here, we also have a couple of USB ports. And as long as you don't have 3 people back here, yes, you do get an armrest with cup holders. How lovely. Oh, and one more thing. Check out this piece of glass we got up here. It is heavily tinted, so it doesn't bring in all that much light, but it does give you a view of what's above you, and that part's nice. Oh, and if you're in the passenger side, you also have this executive seating option. If no one sits in the passenger front, you can move the seat forward and give yourself even more legroom. All right, let's go check out the front seat. But before I do, I want to show you something. First thing I'm going to do is lock the car. Car's locked. Here's the key fob. I am backing away with the key fob. I'm setting the key fob down here. You can see where I am, how far I am away from the car. So now I do not have the key, but this has something called Face Connect, and it's programmed to know my face. So that means if I touch to open the door and then look right here, it will unlock the car for me without the key. And you can also program your fingerprint right there. It recognizes your fingerprint. You can start the car and drive off all without the key fob. All right, let me get the key fob and go back to the traditional bits. There it is. Before I do, I should say the key fob doesn't have anything here or there, but the buttons are on the side here, and you can see you have lots of options right on the key fob, including auto start and smart park assist and all that kind of fun stuff. Yeah, Lots of technology in this car. If you're at all curious, I've tested Smart Park a couple of times, and I'll go ahead and put a link to one of those right there, and I'll have it in the description as well. Okay, as you can see, we have the typical controls right here. I do like this kind of like finished metal look of it, and again, this nice green stitching to contrast this darker blue color here, but we do even have different tones here, and this nice like kind of silver lining right here. I think the design is nice. You do also have 2-position seat memory right there, and a slightly funkier than usual side view mirror adjustment. And check out these seats. These are called Ergo Motion seats. They adjust in all kinds of different ways and even have a massaging function. Moreover, look at these nice and deep bolsters up here. The lower bolsters aren't quite as impressive, but still, this overall looks like a very cool and comfortable and supportive seat. Now, these are exclusive to the performance trim. If you want the massage, consider that. And you have power adjusted tilt and telescope steering. It is right there. But also check this out. You've got this nice long and flat floor that goes across the entire width of the car. The center console just kind of meets there and gives you a lot of extra space. Now, when we were in the second row, I did show you the big panoramic moonroof right here, but I should also mention this microfiber suede headliner we have right here. Looks nice, looks classy. Okay, push button start is right here, but before I want to start it, I want to show you this right here. This little like crystal ball, this is your Prindle, except it isn't right now. Start the car, and that flips over to reveal the actual Prindle. Park is right here, and then it's a dial you turn to go into reverse or drive. And when you go into reverse, it actually vibrates a little bit so you know that it's reverse. This head-up display is standard on the GV60, as is this 12.3-inch fully digital instrument cluster, as well as a second 12.3-inch center console touchscreen. The steering wheel has a nice thick rim and a lot of buttons surrounding it, and I do want to definitely talk about the drive modes and this guy right here, Boost, in just a moment. But first, I want to talk about these shift paddles right here. They are also standard. They do not adjust gears, of course. This is a single-speed drive-down transmission, but it adjusts the amount of brake regeneration when you lift off the accelerator pedal. See this little display right here? If I press this button, you can see that it lowers. So you can adjust it to have less or more regen as you lift off. And this one right here is the one that adds. There's also an additional setting called Max. We're going to have that on where we're driving. This 12.3-inch center console display is easy to use, easy to scroll. You can see we have 4 menus right there. My personal favorite is the setup menu right here, and specifically vehicle, drive mode, custom drive mode, and you can see how I set up my custom drive mode right there. This does have both Android Auto and Apple CarPlay connectivity. However, it is wired. You do also have wireless Bluetooth. Beneath that, we do have dual zone climate control. We have buttons for the radio right here. This is kind of a command center for the center console touchscreen if you don't want to use your hands. And I already showed you the Prindle, and beneath that, check it out, heated and ventilated seats, heated steering wheel, various camera options, and more heated and ventilation for the passenger side. All of this is standard on both the advanced and performance trims, as is the Qi wireless smartphone charger right down here. Just slots in like that, start charging, and does a good job to stay in place. Below all of that is some more storage and a couple of USB ports and charging port right there. Looking up, this is how you control the privacy panel for the panoramic glass. Nice. Let's talk drive modes. You have 3 drive modes, actually 4. You have Eco, Comfort, Sport, and if you hold it down, My drive mode. But you also have Boost. If I press Boost, I get 10 seconds of 483 horsepower instead of 429. I think there might be a time that comes in handy when we get to the drive. All right, let's dig into the powertrain. As I mentioned, Both trims are all-wheel drive, with one electric motor on each axle to supply power. Both trims also use the exact same 77.4 kilowatt-hour battery pack and have the same electric motor in back, a 214.6 horsepower electric motor. The difference in power comes at the front motor. The advanced trim gets a smaller electric motor that produces 99 horsepower, whereas this performance model gets a second 214.6 horsepower front motor. Add those two together and you get 429 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. If you're a little bit of a nerd like me, that is a nice and clean 700 newton meters of torque. By the way, the Advanced, in addition to making do with 314 horsepower, has to settle for just 446 pound-feet of torque. But actually, the performance can do even better than that. With the boost button on the steering wheel that I showed you, you have 10 seconds of 483 horsepower. Yeah, the transmission are just single-speed drive-down gears for each electric motor, and as I already said, of course, it's all-wheel drive. Now, this being a performance model, we also do get an electric limited slip diff and adjustable shock absorbers, and that is tied to the drive modes. But we also get the adjustable off-accelerator brake regeneration. I currently have it on the highest automatic setting, and we get about tenth and a half of deceleration that way. However, like I showed you, if I am coasting and I hold down this pedal, I go to max and I get something more like 0.2 of deceleration. But you can also choose to go down to the minimum settings, and then when you lift off the accelerator, it's pretty much coasting. You get just a smidge of deceleration, but really not much. Personally, I like to maximize the amount of motor regeneration I get when lifting off the accelerator, but the fact that you can adjust it is a nice touch. But generally speaking, I just have to say that I'm really impressed with this powertrain. But it's interesting how drive mode dependent it really is. Currently in comfort mode, if I floor the accelerator, power kind of eases in, but it builds and builds and gets pretty darn big, pretty darn powerful. Now, that was in comfort mode. If I switch to sport mode, power comes on a lot faster and a lot more forcefully. And it's that instant response that you come to expect in electric motors. Now that's in sport mode. I can do one better. Putting in boost, and it's just right away laughably fast and powerful. Oh man, yeah, that is really something. Or I can go the other way and put in eco mode, and then it's really slow to ramp up. The drive modes in the Genesis GV60 play a bigger role than any other drive mode I've seen in terms of powertrain response. It's really, really interesting. Now, fuel economy doesn't tend to mean as much in EVs. We want to talk range a little bit more, but this does actually do pretty darn well when it comes to those numbers. You get 97 miles to the gallon in the city, 82 on the highway, 90 combined. And of course, if you get the Advanced GV60, you do better still. I'll go ahead and put those numbers on the screen as well. But of course, range is what everyone thinks about when they think EVs, and here I'd say solid numbers. You get 235 miles of range on a full charge. Of course, that's not when it is 30 degrees in Michigan, but range for me still wasn't that far off. It was over 200 miles. We do have a heat pump in this car, and that helps mitigate some of the electricity needs to warm up the cabin, for example. And again, the Advanced does do a little bit better. I'll go ahead and put the range up on the screen of that one so you can see that. Now, when it comes to recharging, this is an 800 volt system, and that means you can go from 10 to 80% charge in just 18 minutes in this, because you can charge at 350 kilowatts. Pretty darn good. And if you're on a standard level 2 system, it takes 7 hours or maybe 9 or 10, depending on how many amps you have. On a 48 amp system, Genesis says that it will take 7 hours to go from 10% to 100% charge. But a couple of nice things. If you buy a Genesis GV60, you will get 3 years of complimentary charging in 30-minute intervals at Electrify America. So that would certainly help mitigate the cost of charging. And this does come with the V2L system. That is vehicle to load, and that means that you can use the battery pack from the Genesis to power other things, So if you're camping or if you're tailgating or something like that, and I think those types of ideas are what's really going to help sell people on the advantages of electric vehicles. There are definitely advantages to internal combustion engines and the ease of just adding more fuel to the fuel tank. But there are advantages to having an EV. The torque response and the abundance of it, that's definitely one of them. But also being able to just have your own rolling battery pack to power whatever you want, wherever you want, that's a real advantage. That's a real convenience. But okay, fuel economy, range, charging, all that stuff, very important, but not nearly as much fun as accelerating, especially when you have nearly 500 horsepower to play with. Yes, of course I had to test it. Let me show you that right now. All right, everybody, time for an acceleration test. I do have the car in my drive mode, which is essentially sport mode, but with stability control off. And we're gonna see what this boost mode is all about. All right, let's do this. Coming to a complete stop. Boost mode on. All right, let's hit the accelerator. Oh man. Whoa! Oh, 60! Okay, not slow. That was an absolute rocket ship of a car. Genesis says this will do 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 4 seconds flat, which means 0 to 60 in less than that, and I have no reason to doubt that. We were hustling. We had no wheel slip, and there was not like all power right at once. It did build up, but boy, did it build up fast. Fantastic acceleration from the Genesis GV60. Yeah. Just thinking about it makes me laugh. Yeah, that was good fun. But of course, a car like this probably isn't going to be at the drag strip every day. You're going to want to know what it's like to ride, how it behaves on the interstate perhaps. Well, I'm happy to report because the battery pack sits nice and low. You have a real nice low center of gravity. You have a lot of space inside, a lot of comforts. The seats are extremely comfortable, especially these ergo motion seats that have the massaging function. They actually call it stretch in this car, but still basically the same thing. And you also have pretty darn comfortable ride. Now, I have to say, it's actually a little bit stiffer than I expected, but it is, for me at least, still fairly comfortable. And frankly, it's nice to have that adjustment that when you go into sport mode, everything is sportier, not just the powertrain. Ultimately, I find this a very comfortable car to be in, and that's true on roads like this or on the interstate. Yes, I tested it there as well. Let me show you that. All right, time for a quick stint on the interstate. I do have the GV60 back in comfort mode, and I do have a whole slew of driving assist systems that are standard on the car. I'll go ahead and put the list up for you right now. The one that we will definitely be trying out is highway driving assist, and hopefully none of the others. All right, let's see how this is. Okay, we are up to speed going with traffic just around 80 miles an hour. I do have adaptive cruise control on, and I also have highway driving assist on. So with that in mind, I will go ahead and take my hands off the steering wheel now. And yes, the car does continue to follow this subtle curve in the road just fine, and it is not yet complaining that my hands aren't on the wheel, but I have a feeling it will soon. Generally speaking, this is a very nice and comfortable ride. Wind noise isolation is actually quite good. It's not the absolute best. I was in a Cadillac CT5 fairly recently, and I did find that to be a little bit better, but this is awfully good overall. Obviously, engine noise is really good, and road noise is reasonable as well. Okay, there's the complaint. Please put your hands on the steering wheel. There it is. We also have a really interesting display to show. We have this like vehicle that's us in the center of the display, and it also shows things that are around us. So we're approaching a semi-truck, and there it appears on the screen, and you get a sense of what's going on. So I'll go ahead and put my turn signals on, And when I do, you can see that I also get a nice camera to take care of blind spots for me, and that goes for the left or for the right. So just for an example, there's that as well. So yeah, I really like the information that is provided on the display. And you can also see that it says HDA right there. That's highway driving assist. I have the steering assist and the lane centering and all that. That's displayed right there. The ride is a little bit stiffer than I expected. You know, we do have these adaptive shocks on this car, and I thought that that would give us a slightly softer ride. I don't find it uncomfortable at all. It works for me just fine, but some might find it a touch on the stiff side. Overall, this is a perfectly pleasant highway cruiser, and besides, massaging seats. Believe it or not, Genesis does call this a crossover SUV, even though the government calls it a large car, and I tend to agree with the government on this one, but it can tow. Genesis says that you can tow up to 2,000 pounds with the GV60 as long as your trailer has trailer brakes. Now, that's not a lot, but that is also more than nothing. So if you have a couple of motocross bikes or a jet ski or something like that, maybe a small utility trailer, yeah, you could use this for that. Although you might want to pay closer attention to range. But overall, you don't have to pay that close attention to range. 235 miles, as long as you're not going on a major road trip, is plenty to get everything done you needed to get done for the day. And then it easily charges overnight and you can do it all over again. If you do it that way, you have a very comfortable, very spacious, very useful car in this Genesis GV60. Like the Kia EV6 and the Hyundai Ioniq 5, this really does make the decision to transition to EVs easier than it's ever been before. I love the practicality that's built into it. I love the luxuries that's built into it. And I really love the power that's built into it. For me personally, I think I might be happiest in the Hyundai Ioniq 5. I thought that was a really cool combination of no-nonsense styling, a lot of space, and, you know, good drivability and usefulness across the board. But this is definitely more luxurious in a lot of different ways. And if you're into that, this would be a fantastic choice. I'm Robin Warner. Thank you for watching. And if you like this video, I would really appreciate it if you showed me by giving it a thumbs up. Doing so helps me out quite a lot. Also, if you're interested in something like the GV60, you should also definitely check out the C40, which is very, very similar to this in a lot of ways. Size, power, luxury, cost, all of it. I'll go ahead and put a link to that review in the description, and it should pop up right there as well. And from there, I've reviewed a whole bunch of cars by now. One of them's gonna pop up next to me. Hopefully it's something you might find interesting. And if you do end up watching that video, I really hope you like it. Okay, goodbye for now.